change my camera angle here. So you had the reliability myth, and in actuality, this gun, none of them. There was a lot of shortcomings in this original design. The sights are hard to pick up. The bushing to where Colt changed the style bushing later on in their civilian production. And there was a whole bunch of things you can take an old surplus gun and modify the sights, some of the internal components, the springs, extending the ejector and all this other stuff. And then if you kind of did that, you would scallop the slide, and there was a whole bunch of improvements and customizing of these guns over the years. But we'll go back to the power. Okay, like I said, I don't know who come up with that, but they said that the Army adopted this pistol because it could stop a horse. And I heard that even in the 90s from an old Army vet. Why they adopted that gun all them years ago is they wanted a gun that could stop a charging horse. Well, that's where we got all these power things. People treated this gun and talked about this gun like it was, more powerful than a .44 Magnum, which in reality isn't. This only generates about 21,000 psi in the chamber. The thing is, it's just a matter of physics. A heavier, slower moving bullet does more damage, especially if it's of a larger diameter. It doesn't really have to expand to create damage to a living thing. Okay, and the thing is, what I'm talking about is very rarely does anyone say anything about shooting a person with one of these. People shoot bricks, ballistic gelatin, watermelons, whatever the hell. The thing is when your life depends on it, does it work? Probably. I always felt that way, that the 45 ACP is more than an adequate cartridge to go up against somebody attacking, okay? But back years ago, 30 years ago, okay, people didn't wear soft body armor. This was an effective gun. Now the biggest thing with the military and the police is criminals and that wear body armor, which would stop this thing in its tracks, okay? You're not going to get the lethality out of it. But people still said the power, and that was kind of a fallacy. And what it is too is a lot of people, they might have known the gun, they may have fired the gun, but I've never heard it from people who have actually had to use it to defend their life, put it to that person in that situation. I heard one guy, he was an old naval veteran, again, peacetime veteran, didn't see no war. He said, if you shot anybody with a .45, if you hit a man in the hand, if you shot at him and hit his hand, it would knock him off his feet. And then one of my, somebody put a comment in there, they said, yeah, the hole goes in the size of a quarter and it blows something the size of a grapefruit out the back. That's kind of not true. What happens when you hit a living thing is the wound cavity, the force and the shock, the tissue is soft, it expands and gets tore up, That's why, the point of driving jacketed hollow points and these things, now the gun gets kind of on a devastating side, but the ball ammo is good enough, or used to be. And hollow points against body armor just break up. Just your kinetic energy thumping the guy. So I've heard all kinds of things. I've heard stories. One guy told me when he was in the military police, you just shoot this up in the air, and that the bullet would, when it came down, wouldn't have enough power to penetrate through a roof or something. And I don't know about that. They tell you shooting up in the air ain't exactly the best thing, and the bullets come down pretty much just as fast as they come out of the gun. I don't want to test this. I'm not going to go to the range and fire a gun in the air and sit there and watch the bullet come down and prove a point, but I don't recommend it. Another thing, like the guy said, yeah, you hit somebody with it, it'll knock them across the room and all this other stuff. A lot of wild stories. One of the most powerful guns around. And then, like I said, the reliability, which isn't quite true. These guns can be accurized and turned into target guns. And a lot of the old surplus guns were sold. And for bullseye competition, I knew people that had a lot of these guns. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the pistols sold in the 50s. I knew some friends of my parents that had one, and I talked to a couple guys that they told me that their father got the gun and used to shoot bullseye with it. And I found that those guns were usually, some of them were the 1911 models, which would be an older one, okay? And they had a lot of World War I made parts. In other words, you'd see a frame that was made by Colt, but yet a slide that was made by Remington. And I believe what the military did is, as these guns got worn out and damaged or whatever, they kind of assembled them into something that, would function, but it was worn, and then they sold them as surplus. And back in the day, when you used to just send a check or money order to the Army Depot and they'd mail you the gun, a lot of people liked them for bullseye shooting. And the American Rifleman had all kinds of articles on how to tighten up the gun, tune it, do all these things, and I heard tons of information on how to do it. Say you had a rattling slide. There was a way you would either cut a groove in a set of jaws and then put it in a vise, and then you'd drop it down only about a quarter or 3/8 of an inch, and you would just close it on this section of the slide that rides on the frame and kind of squeeze it in. Then another guy was telling me, he was in the Army too, is you would take it and take a prick punch and you would whack the rails, and what you did is when the prick punch would put a divot in the metal, it would actually pull metal up, push it up. So you'd be increasing the surface, and if you took the time and did it steadily and equally, you would basically increase the surface a few thousandths and take some of the play out that way. Then there was something about tightening up the barrel lockup. I remember something about drilling through here and putting a set screw in or something to tighten up something or else, which, there was tons of stuff. But they were popular guns, and people used them for competition, target shooting, bullseye shooting for years. And then when the combat style pistol stuff started, these were also a popular gun because by the 70s or 80s, there was a whole bunch of companies making clones. They weren't military guns. They were produced like this here gun. And when they did the customizing, I used to hear, the one thing is this grip safety, okay? People either taped it or they would pin it. One of the things was they would push it in and they put a pin and permanently lock the grip safety down. Now, in all the years and all the thousands of rounds I've fired through several different makes and brands of pistols, I've never had the gun act up with, you see the grip safety. And I mean, I just don't really have a lot of pressure on it, okay? I've never had a problem. Of course, I've never went and drawn the guns firing in timed competition, okay? I've never done that. But I've never had problems with the grip safety. A lot of people said this was the safest gun to have because you had the grip safety, the thumb safety, all this other stuff, on there. So let me think of some other points. All right, another thing was the strength. To get any accuracy out of it, you had to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger to fire this gun. This gun was so powerful. So again, it's power And then to get accuracy, you had to have the strength to control this weapon. And that was always a big rumor, and that's why it was extremely popular to picture women firing these guns. Okay? I think my wife has fired this and can handle it. Alright? And there was a thing in the 70s when they started making the stainless steel guns, there was something called the AMT hardballer. And when the guy did the article, he had his 16-year-old daughter, pictures of her firing the gun, proving that the recoil and the massive power, and this is not a 50 Action Express. Okay, actually, like I said, this is a very low-powered cartridge, only generates 21,000 psi in the chamber. So in a way, this is kind of the ideal gun. And this, for what it is, for the size it is, and made out of metal. Okay, not the, and then the big thing is, well, your plastic guns and everything. This is a good controllable weapon. It is a service-sized weapon, it really ain't concealable gun, okay? And I've seen people get them ones where they saw them off, and then you can get like one finger down on the grip, and you chop them up to where they make it a concealable gun. But now you're getting ridiculous. Now the recoil is going to be hard to. It's hard to hold on to the gun when you got, one finger here, the other one's drifting off. Get something else.